Delighted to be on the glass bottle site here with Sisk, your PSCS on this project here today, and I'm joined by Richie Butler, who is Head of Occupational Health and Wellbeing, and your colleague Liam Maher, who is Health Promotion Lead in this space. I said to you, Richie, as we were just walking through the site, it's a fantastic project. You're on a number of different phases here, but 1,000 units actually under construction at the minute. But my title was quite long in terms of health, safety, welfare, education, training and skills. That even got abridged to just safety, education, training. So health even got taken out of that. But tell us, health, occupational health, like what's the main difference between it and health and safety? What are we trying to do in that space?
Yeah, Sean, look, yeah, great to be here today. You're right, and I would say in terms of your own job title, that's probably not unusual. I think a lot of the time we hear about health and safety, the health part either gets completely forgotten about or it's the poor cousin, as I would call it. But you're right to ask the question, what does occupational health actually mean? Because I'm not sure how well people even understand it as a concept. Traditionally or typically what you might hear from people is that occupational health is how work impacts our health. And that's correct. So that's in terms of the risks, the exposures that people may have in the workplace and the impact that they can have both on physical health and on mental health. And we should remember that that's not necessarily all negative. You know, it can have a positive impact too. And that's probably where Liam comes in on the health promotional piece very much. But the missing part often with occupational health is it's also looking at how health impacts work. And that's really where you pull in the fitness for work piece. So again, you can imagine somebody has a diagnosed health condition, long-term disability or health issue, that can have an impact on their ability to do their job in a sort of a safe, sustainable, productive way. And again, that kind of pulls in the health promotional piece as well. So that's probably how I would package up what occupational health is.
Very good. And what, in terms of occupational health during work, what are the main hazards in that area?
Yeah, hugely varied. Again, we can, the prevalence of some of the occ health hazards will vary depending on the type of project and also vary depending on the stage that a project is at. But I think what I would probably describe as the big hard hitters in terms of what we see on construction sites up and down the country, day in, day out, are things like occupational noise. You've got hand-arm vibration, whole body vibration. You've got dust, so you've obviously got silica dust, wood dust. You've got other types of dust as well. You've got chemicals, biological agents, you've got manual handling and ergonomic risks. So there's a huge range in terms of occupational health risks. And it will vary, as I said, it will vary depending on the tasks and a particular crew are doing, and it'll vary depending on the stage that a project is at. But I think what we're trying to do is really raise the bar and raise the level of awareness of what those risks are, firstly. And then try and actually manage them in a more proactive way.
What do you think is harder to try and manage?
Health. There's probably a few different reasons I'd give. I'd say, firstly, health is really complex and it's not linear. So, a health risk or an exposure to two people can have completely different outcomes for those two individuals. So that in itself is a real challenge when it comes to managing health. I think probably the biggest challenge we have, though, is what we call the latency periods for a lot of health issues and health outcomes. So, you might often hear kind of people describe sort of occupational health or health issues as being slow accidents, because if you have an accident on site, you pretty much see the outcome of that straight away.
It's tangible. Yeah.
It's tangible, absolutely, and it's there in front of people, they can see it. But if you look at a lot of the occupational health risks, you can have people who have exposures for months, years, decades before they actually see the outcome of those health exposures. And therefore, they just don't see the immediacy of the risk, and that just makes it a lot more challenging. So, we still have situations, certainly in the UK, I don't think the HSA provide these statistics, but we still have up to 3,000 people dying every year in the UK from asbestosis from exposures 30, 40 years ago. Okay.
That's the nature of I suppose the nature of the information that they had at that point in time, but even the exposure and perhaps linked to the type of work they were doing and in the type of even renovation projects, they were probably being exposed to that. Sisk are actually one of our main sponsors as part of the campaign. We're going back to basics this year. How important is it for the industry, for even organisations like CIF to be supporting this? What does that mean to Sisk?
You mean the campaign, or do you mean the occupational health messaging?
How does it help you deliver what you're trying to do?
I think, look, even going back to that piece, the theme is back to basics, and I was sort of trying to relate that back to the occupational health piece and what does that really mean. And I think what we need to do, not just within Sisk, but across the industry, and of course the CIF have a huge role to play in this, is we need to go back to how we actually manage risks on our sites. So if you think from a safety perspective, things like work at height, plant and machinery, moving vehicles, that's all documented in a risk assessment. It's signed off.
It's visible.
It's visible, yeah. And actually the other thing as well is it's not just written on a piece of paper, actually it's practically implemented.
Yeah.
So to an extent, we need to go back to the basics of just remembering that we need to manage health in that way. We need to bring it back to the sort of preventative model and actually start again at the top of the hierarchy of controls rather than the bottom, because I think typically what you see is we'll start with the PPE, we'll start with the respiratory protective equipment, and that will protect somebody from exposures to silica dust or wood dust or other, fumes and things like that. But actually, that's the wrong place to start. We need to be starting up here and kind of going, how do we eliminate, how do we reduce these things before we get anywhere near the PPE end of it? So I would probably say those two pieces, the risk management piece, and then going back to our hierarchy of controls is sort of tying in with that back to basics piece.
Very good. It's a really strong point, and I know as we were watching the screen coming down behind us earlier on, you're making that point. As part of the campaign, what do you think would be a good idea? What would you make suggestions for people even to be looking at during the 2 weeks?
I think, again, look, what you need to be careful of is that you don't completely overload people, because I probably listed 10 or 15 different knock health hazards, and that can just become completely overloading for people. You're going to go, God, where do I even start with these things? I would probably start with really looking again at your risk assessments, your safe plans of action. Are we actually documenting anything from an occupational health perspective? Do we actually even know what the occ health hazards are that we have on our projects at particular stages? What's the awareness? What's the education like around people who are working in specific roles that have those exposures? Are they aware of the health effects? Are they aware of the signs and the symptoms? Do they know how to report these things? So I think it's probably, again, it's coming back to that risk assessment piece. There's the kind of the risk management piece, the elimination, the reduction, the education piece, and then right down to the RPE and the other personal protective equipment.
Liam Maher, it's easy for me to remember your name because, as I said to you just in passing as we were coming up the stairs, you've the same surname as the best goalkeeper in the League of Ireland at the minute, plays for Derry City. Your Health Promotion League. And what I absolutely love is just talking to you because, as we were talking earlier on as well, is it's finding experts in their space to pull in and it's moving expertise across from other sectors into our industry. So your Health Promotion Lead for Sisk, you have a background. Tell us a little bit about your background and what does health promotion mean?
Yeah, it's an interesting background really for this role. So primarily I had an exercise science degree many moons ago when I studied in LIT in Tipperary. And then I went off and completed a master's degree in public health. So what I got really interested in was integrative health. So all the different factors that impact on people's health. So trying to tie it all together into one program essentially. So from the physical activity perspective, which we know is massive as we age, really important. The food that we eat, really important also, and the quality sleep that we get too. So these three factors are really massive in terms of what we're trying to do in Sisk at the moment. To give you an example, so standard campaigns in health and wellbeing will be your calendar events. So you might have something for Men's Health Week, Women's Health, all that is important. But what we've tried to do, and it's a little bit different, is we've tried to target these lifestyle factors with actual supports that are available year round. So we have different experts available for sleep consultations, for example, one-to-one over Teams for any staff in Sisk. Nutritional coaching, same thing with a dietitian, and physical activity consultations with myself. So we're providing support year round to people in addition to what we do in our yearly calendar. So in essence, health promotion is the process of enabling people to increase control over and to improve their own health. And what we're trying to do is empower people to actually do that.
Yeah, and you made a brilliant comment, I think, earlier on that it's this segue between health and the health as an industry, but also business. So that you've seen, your remind me, Tipperary won something, I think.
I think we won in All-Ireland recently,
Yeah.
yeah. So there's a massive crossover between high-performance sport and business in general, I would say.
Yeah.
Project teams, high-performing teams, management structures. I think it's very similar. Psychology, yeah, absolutely, and trying to peak for obviously big events and big projects. So it's very, very similar. So there's actually a lot of relationship between the two, so I think it's worthwhile.
One thing that's really interesting, because I would have seen a lot of national events over the last decade where we had, let's say, the county manager of a hurling or football team, a lot of the guest speakers that you'd have, but it was always from a leadership perspective. And some psychology, but it was always trying to drive that leadership mentality, how to manage high-performing teams. But it's brilliant that we're literally just cherry-picking the next best thing, which is what makes those people operate as machines the most effectively and efficiently. I really like as well the fact that what you guys are really talking about is we always traditionally looked at it in the four corners of inside the gate, but you're effectively trying to make people and facilitate and support them outside the gate and try and reach across, because if they don't turn up, and if they haven't, I know from having someone on Freshers Week this week, if you haven't had a good sleep and it's just been at World Skills, and let's say the catering is all maybe targeted to young people, but not maybe the most nutritious. If you're not well fed and well watered and well rested, you're not ready. You're not going to be in the best mental state. What do you think the biggest challenges are for people? You mentioned the three kind of areas.
In construction, I would say big challenges will be for people working on sites will be musculoskeletal issues. They're involved in repetitive motions all day long, so they're crouching over, they're doing the same thing, so muscles become short and tight, other ones become long and weak. That's going to affect musculoskeletal system as they get older. Sleep quality, obviously, with the nature of project-based work, they're under pressure, time constraints, so that's a massive one too. And you've already said about the food that they're eating on the go. The reality is when you're under pressure, whether you might have a newborn in the house too, but you're under pressure, you mightn't have time to make the food that you'd like to eat. So as a result, I would say those three factors are pretty clear.
Access as well, isn't it? Even on the journeys, like you think about the number of places between you here and your home that you could pick up something on the go that's healthy. It's really, really interesting the way that we've kind of approached it. But do you think then, as part of the campaign, does it help having the national campaign to sort of drive occupational health? We had a partnership last year with OSHE. We have the Clean Flag initiative to sort of drive, better awareness, but also better use of RPE. Does it help if there are national initiatives to sort of help you drive what you're trying to do with Sisk?
I'm just thinking from Liam's perspective, even from health promotion, if you think about some of the things that we've tried to tap into from a public health perspective, things like smoking cessation, things like that, actually, there are public health supports available there, but actually what we've tried to do, as Liam said, we've shifted the model. We've tried to make those things available in-house as much as possible and to make them available year-round for people, because we discuss this all the time, something like smoking or vaping. Whilst we might think May is the right time to run a campaign like that, well, the person who's smoking or vaping may not think it's the right time, and they're the most important person in this. They may have other things going on. They may have holidays coming up. So you've got to meet people where they're at a little bit more. I'm not sure if that answers your question directly, but
that's a really, really good point. It's almost like we've been taking something off the shelf for years and pushing it towards people, whereas I don't know if it's a pedagogy. It's the way things should be designed. Like, how do people receive it?
Just one point as well. Just when I'm even listening to Liam talk and conversation we're having here, if you think about it, you've got the occupational health piece, which is, to me, is the kind of the real compliance-driven end of what we do in terms of trying to protect people, make sure that their health isn't being impacted in a negative way, and that's very much about managing the risks. But I suppose what we're trying to do is we're trying to manage the risks, but if you like, almost manage the lifestyles as best we can. Manage in the sense of making support available to people, evidence-based, really rigorous support programs, behaviour support programs, and trying to align those two pieces, that we're not doing anything sort of in isolation. And I see you're wearing the green ribbon as well. Are you mental health first aider? You have those within the company as well? Well, we actually have our own peer support program. So, mental health first aid obviously is an informal peer support program. So we've actually built our own informal peer support program. We launched it last year on World Mental Health Day, which is the 10th of October. I guess, we're in a unique position and a lucky position that we have two in-house mental health leads with close to 30 years of mental health experience between the two of them. So that allows us to do more of these types of things, to be able to really build our own program and bespoke it not just to Sisk, but actually to the construction industry.
Liam, can I ask you, did you ever think when you were doing your undergrad in it was just outside Turles, yeah, the campus there, did you see yourself working in the industry like this?
No, I didn't see myself working in the construction industry, but to say it's been amazing, that would be an understatement. It's been challenging too. The realities of working in construction is pretty unique, I would say, and trying to tailor what I would understand in terms of lifestyle factors for health has been challenging too, but we've really made inroads over the last few years. I really do believe that. So Richie talked about stop vaping and smoking, so I trained up with HC in Ireland to actually deliver that in-house too. And if you had to say to me that I'd even be doing something like a smoking cessation program in a construction company, I would have thought that wouldn't happen either. So one thing is just being in construction, the other one is actually rolling out these programs, and we're really proud of how it's going, but we have a lot more to do, I would say.
Yeah, but I think we've got as we talked about health and safety at the beginning, we looked at, safety. Have we cracked it? I'm not sure, because every time we think that we're in a great space, then we've had possibly 5 fatalities this year already. It's all falls from height. And 1 or 2 with plant and moving plant and equipment, but it falls from height is definitely the big killer. Do we get the stats in terms of near misses? I'm not sure if they're as prevalent as what's actually happening on the ground, but the level of people's health and fitness and well-being is something that's harder to measure. It's much more, as you were saying, like it's almost invisible. It doesn't necessarily, it's not, when you're walking around a site, it's not that easy to see whether or not people have had that good sleep, have had well this morning or well set for the day. Because they're long shifts, long commute possibly as well, both sides of the day. So really it's brilliant. It's a brilliant initiative that Sisk have taken on, that you're leading. And you're obviously taking the lessons from the Tipperary hurling team as well.
Just a little bit,
Yeah, that's good. I think as part of the campaign, as part of the campaign, just from your perspective, across the 10 days, and I know, as you said, there's 2 things I would say, Richie. We don't want to swamp people, but we just wanted to give them leads so that on the 5 days of each week, they've got something that they can go to. But even critical risks gives them anything to go to. What would you recommend? Like if you were just talking to someone in the morning saying, guys, for your health and well-being piece, your health promotion, this is what you should be looking at.
Yeah, well, the campaign is called Back to Basics. So if I was talking about back to basics from a health promotion perspective, it's simple things, and the evidence is showing this more and more. So a concept has come up over the last while is something called exercise snacks. So simply just doing little bouts of exercise throughout the day. So we could be going for a walk around your work area, could be doing 5-6 squats in the morning. There's a lot of really good evidence on this for health, obviously for mental health, but even maintaining your muscle as you age. So it doesn't have to be hard. Another simple thing back to basics would be simply getting out for a morning walk and getting some bright light into your eyes. It does a number of things. 1, gets some steps so you're moving, but also gets that circadian rhythm, so your sleep-wake cycle. So you'll actually be more likely to have a better sleep that night. So simple changes like that, getting a walk in the morning, but also exercise snacks makes a big difference. So it doesn't have to be hard, and it's back to basics, as you say.
Can I ask for a big favour as well? We talk about the impact of the seasonal affective disorder, SADS, and that. I definitely feel a big difference when and I think the worst for me is definitely when you hit the spring and you get really, really early sunrise.
Yeah.
You've got like a 17-hour day. What do you recommend? Do you even go back to basics and put blinkers on?
Yeah, well, I've just kind of alluded to, but the first thing is light. The first thing you're missing out on throughout the winter is bright light into your eyes early in the day. So some people like to use a SAD lamp. Right. So that's one thing that definitely works. Good bit of evidence behind that. Obviously, when you don't get enough light, you're probably not getting enough vitamin D also. So supplementing vitamin D is really important during the winter. So 2 simple things anyone could do, really, I would say.
Good.
Yeah.
Very good. Very practical. I think it's been a really useful conversation. I think that we've had a lot of conversations across the country on major civils projects, major building projects. We've been west, south and east. A lot of projects in Dublin, people talking really from completely different perspectives. And it's really, really interesting to hear what Sisk has been doing for some time. We want to try and drive forward with a national initiative. There's 2 things, as I was going to say. We want to keep this momentum going. So it's not about a campaign for 2 weeks. And it's not about just trying to give people, here's a menu. We want to build a national calendar. A lot of the big clients want to align with us so that the promotion initiatives that they're driving as well are lined up. Things like the occupational health side is something we're going to really reverberate again in November, and then we're also going to drive that whole mental health campaign about Safe Home for Christmas when it comes to that wind down and people going into maybe a fairly intensive family environment and going back to different countries as well. We're going back to different parts of the island. So I think your help in driving this campaign, what we're trying to do in terms of initiatives, bringing on the possibility of health and safety, apprenticeships even, and a mentors program, I think is really important. It's great to see your expertise in this space, but I hope to be able to reach out and get you guys as well to maybe help support the next generation of young talent that we're going to bring into the sector. As I said, it's been great to see you here on the glass bottle site in Ringsend, and I hope that Sisk will get a great impact out of the campaign as we go back to basics in October this year. Thanks very much for your time on the site today.
Okay.
Thank you.
Can
Thanks,
I
Sean.
just jump in with one statistic?
Yeah,
I know
of
we
course.
talked about
Yeah.
statistics, but and there probably is a lack of statistics, I would say, around occupational diseases. But one thing that we do know, and just if we need to really try and reinforce the importance of the health element, is that actually you're 100 times more likely to die from an occupational disease in construction than you are from a workplace accident. So that's a pretty stark, strong statistic. That should be our starting point. Well, why are we doing this stuff?
Yeah.
Why is it important? Why do we have to start feeding this stuff into our risk assessments? I think that's the evidence for you.
Very good. And I think your point earlier on that you made, Richie, about the fact that it's the time lag that just makes it that stat is not relative to people because of the fact that they don't connect the dots.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Guys, thanks for your time.
Thank you.
It's really good. Thank you.
Thanks, Sean.
Thanks, Sean.